I spent hours in Paralives setting up rooms, thinking I had already mastered the tools, until I discovered a few hidden tricks that completely turned my notion of building upside down. And look, I'm not talking about glitches or mods, it's pure game mechanics that many people still haven't properly explored. Today, I'll show you 10 of these building secrets that completely changed how I look at Paralives. There is stuff here that might make you reconsider every single room you've already planned. Trust me. I'm Mary, and let's get into it. You know that moment when you place a window on a wall and think, man, this windowsill could actually be useful for something? Well, Paralives heard our silent prayers. When you pull the wall thickness to the maximum, using those small arrows down in the bottom menu, the windowsill widens on its own. It's not just visual, it gains actual physical collision. Suddenly, you have a built-in shelf ready to hold that fern pot, a stack of books, or that lamp you bought on impulse and didn't know where to put. The magic happens because the game treats this widened ledge as a valid placement surface. No holding Alt, no elevation tricks, no crying while watching the object float a millimeter above the floor. You click, release, and the object stays. It seems like a minor thing, but for anyone who spends hours aligning frames on a wall or testing if a plant fits in the corner of a bookshelf, this changes the entire pace of building. You stop fighting against the grid and start actually decorating. The coolest part is that this opens up possibilities we wouldn't even think of when planning a room. A wide window in the kitchen becomes support for spices. In the bedroom, it turns into an improvised nightstand. In the home office, it holds a coffee mug and a notebook. And since the wall thickness is fully adjustable, you decide how deep you want this furniture piece to be. Shallow for light items, deep for larger pots. It's the kind of freedom that makes you rethink the entire floor plan just to fit in more functional windows. Next time you open build mode, try this out. Place a window, thicken the wall all the way up, and let your imagination run wild on the windowsill. You will find yourself rotating the camera, looking for corners where nothing used to fit, and thinking, what if I put a succulent here? Small detail, massive difference, and one of those things you discover on your own, feel proud of, and rush to show your friends on Discord. If there is one trick that completely changed the way I build, it's this one, and it's almost absurdly simple. You know those small cushions found in the decoration category? Many people ignore them, but they are actually one of the most powerful tools in the game, because they aren't just cushions, they're practically any object you want them to be. The secret lies in combining the physics of these cushions with the color wheel and custom textures. When you start messing around with this, you realize you can transform a simple cushion into a snack bag tossed on the floor, an open popcorn bag on the couch, or even a magazine left on the table. And it doesn't just look similar, it's genuinely convincing. The kind of thing where you look at it and forget it originated from a cushion. What impresses me the most is that this doesn't rely on any mods. It's pure creativity and understanding how the game's system works. The physics help immensely because the objects don't look rigid or artificial. They adapt to the environment, bend slightly, fit better on surfaces. And this adds an incredible amount of natural realism to the scene. Suddenly, an environment that looked staged starts to look lived in. To me, this type of detail is what separates an ordinary build from something that truly tells a story. Because it's not just about large furniture or architecture, it's about what is scattered around, what looks like it's been used, what gives personality to the space. And when you start using these cushions this way, it feels like the game opens up an entirely new layer of possibilities. There is a detail that, once you notice it, makes the game feel like it's taking a generational leap right in front of you. Resizing furniture isn't just about aesthetics, it's about function. You take a single bed, pull it by the sides, and without switching items, it becomes a double bed, then a king. It's not a trick. It doesn't just look bigger, it actually changes category. And this removes a lot of the friction that we have already accepted as normal in other life simulators. Now, what truly won me over was pulling the bed upward, vertically. It transforms into an automatic loft or bunk bed configuration, freeing up usable space underneath. And this space isn't decorative. You can place a desk, a sofa, a bookshelf, whatever makes sense for the layout. In small apartments or teenagers' bedrooms, this becomes pure gold. You solve traffic flow issues while giving the room a custom built-in look. The impact of this on the building workflow is massive. Instead of constantly swapping items, comparing variations in the catalog, and repositioning everything from scratch, you adjust what is already there until it fits the space. It is much more organic. You start with a simple idea and sculpt the furniture until it serves the room perfectly. It seems like a minor detail, but it saves time and, most importantly, keeps your creative train of thought uninterrupted. Once you get used to it, it's hard to go back. You start looking at any piece and thinking, how far can this go? Wider, taller, more functional. And when you combine this with other tools in the game, you can put together compact solutions that would normally require a ton of workarounds. Not here, just pull, adjust, and use. Simple, direct, and incredibly powerful. If there is one thing that drives me crazy in Life Builders, it's when you finally position a frame on the wall at the exact right height, then go to place the next one, and the game simply drops it to the floor as if nothing happened. In Paralives, this doesn't happen, and that completely changed how I set up rooms. The secret lies in the cloning button. When you duplicate an object that is suspended or hanging, the game maintains its exact elevation on the z-axis. This means that if you positioned a picture frame at the perfect height, clone it, and the next one will appear exactly there, on the same line, without you having to constantly micro-adjust with the mouse or hope it lines up by sight. I discovered this when I was setting up a living room and needed to place several shelves next to each other. The moment I saw they all came aligned automatically, I paused and thought, why don't all games do this? What impresses me the most is how this simple mechanic speeds up building while making everything look much more professional. Rows of frames, identical shelves, repeated light fixtures, everything becomes symmetrical effortlessly. And the best part is that you can reposition these clones afterward without losing the height reference, so you create a very clean visual pattern without wasting time on millimeter adjustments. This kind of attention from the developers shows that Paralives understands that builders want fluidity. It's not just about having pretty objects, it's about them cooperating with you. Since I started using this cloning function with retained height, my builds have gained a consistency that used to take me hours to achieve, and now I get it done in minutes. It's one of those details that, once discovered, ensures you never go back to building the same way again. This one is the type of detail that seems small until you use it, and then you can't live without it. In Paralives, you aren't locked into rigid 45 or 90-degree angles when placing flooring. There is a selector that lets you rotate the texture freely at any angle you want. And this completely changes how you approach more problematic rooms. You know that awkward room with a diagonal or even curved wall that always looked strange because the floor never aligned properly? Here, you simply adjust the pattern until it follows the main wall. The wood follows the direction of the space, the tile fits perfectly, and suddenly everything looks much more natural. It's as if the game finally respects the architecture you created. The visual impact of this is incredible. A slightly rotated wood floor completely changes the feel of the room, making it more fluid and realistic. And when you start testing different angles on purpose, not just to correct mistakes, but to create style, it opens up a massive creative spectrum. You can achieve everything from a more elegant finish to something bolder, like diagonal patterns in specific areas of the house. Once you get the hang of it, a certain annoyance sets in when playing anything that lacks this feature, because here you feel you have total control without fighting artificial limitations. It's the kind of tool that doesn't draw attention in trailers, but in practice, it significantly elevates the quality of your builds. I'm going to tell you something that made me feel almost like a detective when I discovered it. You know those objects you place in the house that look Nice, but a bit too generic? In Paralives, the secret isn't in the main catalog, it's in the 3 discrete white dots that appear in the menu when you select certain items. I spent hours building without noticing them, but when I finally clicked there, it felt like the game opened a secret drawer of possibilities that had been hidden right in front of me the entire time. It works like this. When you select more complex objects like kitchen cabinets or those climbing ivy plants that everyone loves, those 3 dots hold variations that the game simply doesn't show you up front. Click on them, and suddenly you have access to completely different structural styles, drawer handle shapes that change the personality of the entire kitchen, and even foliage growth patterns that make the plant look like a different species altogether. It's as if each object comes with a built-in DLC pack that only you, the one who paid attention, will unlock. What impresses me the most is how this transforms advanced customization into something native without needing to rush off to find mods. You can take a basic cabinet and just by tweaking these hidden options, create something that looks like it came out of an expensive design catalog. Plants stop looking repetitive, kitchens gain identity, and even walls and structural elements reveal variations that add depth to the environment. It's the kind of detail that makes you look at your old builds and think, how did I live without this? This hidden menu summarizes what Paralives does best. It trusts the player's curiosity. It doesn't throw everything in your face with flashing arrows or boring tutorials. It hides the gems for those who truly enjoy exploring. Since I started clicking the 3 dots on everything I place in the house, my builds have gained a layer of realism and variety that I couldn't achieve before. So next time you are decorating, click on those dots. It might turn out that the object you thought was limited is exactly what was missing to make that room perfect. In Paralives, you can take any empty frame and simply import an image directly from your computer. It can be a PNG, a JPEG, whatever you want. No mods, no workarounds, without leaving the game. You pick the file, adjust it right then and there, and that's it. Your wall now has its own story. And the coolest part is how naturally this fits into the building workflow. You don't have to break your rhythm to look for external content or configure anything complicated. You are decorating the living room, you remember a piece of art, a photo, a poster, and in seconds, it's inside the game. It gives a much more organic feeling, as if you were setting up a real space, not just filling generic slots. Now, think about the potential of this. You can create bedrooms with real identity, place family photos, artwork you love, movie references, or even design concepts you saved on your PC. And since you can still adjust the size within the frame, you can play with wall compositions, create full galleries, mix styles. It becomes much more personal than any default library could ever offer. Once you use it, it's hard to go back to that closed system where every picture frame looks the same. Here, you feel that every corner can carry something unique, something that is truly yours. And this completely changes your connection to the house you are building because it stops being just pretty and starts having actual personality. If there is one thing that drives me crazy in other life simulators, it's that feeling of assembling a Lego house instead of building a home. Everything locked into perfect squares, forced straight walls, rooms that look like stacked boxes. In Paralives, there's a simple button that completely changes this reality. You can simply turn off the grid and start building freely without that grid pulling you into exact corners. When you deactivate the grid, the game delivers a level of freedom I didn't even know I needed until I tried it. Suddenly, you can draw curved walls that hug the terrain, create triangular rooms that break the monotony, or throw in completely random angles that give real personality to the architecture. The house stops looking like a generic office building and starts looking organic, as if it were designed by a real architect instead of an alignment algorithm. And here's the detail that proves the developers truly understand the player. They didn't abandon precision. When you need that surgical alignment, you just hold Shift and the half grid kicks in. You can place objects with millimeter accuracy without losing the freedom of having thrown the main grid in the trash earlier. It's the best of both worlds. loose when creativity calls, and precise when functionality demands it. This completely breaks that rigidity we have suffered through for years in this genre. You stop being a block fitter and become someone who actually designs spaces. After I made my first curved wall and a triangular room that fit perfectly on the lot, going back to square builds in other games felt like a regression. It's one of those secrets that once discovered becomes a standard in all your builds from then on. This right here is the kind of system that makes you stop thinking in terms of rooms and start thinking in levels. In Paralives, when you mix half walls with floor height adjustments, it opens up a massive range of options for creating houses with real floor variation. It's not just structural aesthetics. Using half walls as a base prevents that classic issue of characters clipping through where they shouldn't, so everything remains functional while you play with levels. And when you start creating platforms within the same environment, the house comes alive. You can make a kitchen slightly elevated compared to the living room, or that sunken living room layout that hugs the sofa and makes the space cozier. Even more specific styles, like a Japanese angawa, start making sense without needing to break everything up into multiple separate rooms. Everything stays integrated, yet retains its own identity. The fine-tuning of the floor height is what ties all of this together. You no longer depend on full walls to divide spaces. The floor level variance itself creates that visual and functional separation. And this completely changes the building flow because you start designing the environment as a whole instead of assembling connected boxes. It is much closer to actual architecture. Once you get the hang of it, it's hard to go back to a flat layout. You start seeing opportunities in any space. What if this area were half a level lower? What if this section had a step? And suddenly your house stops being just well decorated and starts having depth, rhythm, almost as if each area had its own vibe. There is a tool in Paralives that made me stop and think, why haven't all games in this genre done this from the start? I'm talking about the full color wheel, the one that includes hex codes, and the system that allows you to swap textures and materials on individual parts of a single object. It seems simple on the surface, but when you start playing around with it, you realize that practically every piece of furniture in the game becomes a gateway to a completely new item. It works like this. You take any object, open the options, and there you find not only a complete palette to choose the exact shade you envisioned, but also the ability to select separate components of it. Imagine a cabinet where you want rustic wood doors but rusted metal handles, or a sofa where the upholstery is a light fabric and the base is dark leather. You don't have to accept the ready-made model the game handed you. You visually dismantle it and recreate it your way. What impresses me is how this scales to two incredible extremes. You can assemble super colorful, stylized, almost fantastical environments where everything matches an exact palette you created. Or you can go for extreme realism, mixing materials that age differently, reflect light in distinct ways, even creating the feeling that those pieces of furniture were bought at different times and adapted over the years. It's a layer of silent storytelling that only builders truly understand. Ever since I discovered I could transform a basic piece of furniture into a unique item just by changing the texture of the drawers or applying a specific shade via hex code, my approach to decoration has completely changed. I stopped looking for the perfect object in the catalog and started viewing each item as raw material. It's an incredible power in your hands, and best of all, it's all right there, native, waiting for you to stop using the default colors and start creating.